make sure that everything we say goes online. We throw it, and here is 13 seconds. So, hello on another block chat today with Denis Petrovcic, Makram, Hani, and a special guest, our partner in the UK, Bricktrade. Guv is someone who's been in real estate for a time, and he will tell us more about himself, about his company, how did he tackle blockchain, and why Blocksquare. Why did he decide that the future of property for him is using Blocksquare's infrastructure, so that hopefully you can get a hint or two, and maybe you can subscribe to the same. Denis, how are you?
Doing well.
Guv, how are you?
Yes, very good, guys. Glad to join you guys today.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining, Guv.
Yes, exactly.
Guv, tell us more about you. I'll give you the screen here to tell us more about you, Bricktrade, and where have you started, what have you done to date, and why did you decide that tokenization of real estate is the future? You're in a very interesting market, the UK market, and we know how interesting is that market, specifically when it comes to real estate. And then we stroll from there. Go ahead, please.
No worries. Quite a few questions there, but I'll try and capture most of it for you. So a little bit of background about myself. I started university studying business and computing. So, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that stage, but I knew computing and computers were going to be here forever. So I decided to learn about them. And that's what helped me to learn about technology all the way through this. So I was also very interested in property. Long-term wealth was generated by it. So, I was just starting my career then. And I actually had a part-time job at an estate agency while I was at university. Completed my business and computing degree, left university, still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I ended up going full-time at the estate agency. Done that for a few years, and the ins and outs of estate agency, it's not rocket science. It's all about good customer service, I would say. So I think I was, had a good background and experience after a few years, and then we actually set up our own estate agency in the Docklands of London. Again, I've always wanted to specialize in stuff. So we didn't. What usually happens is estate agents, they set up an office, draw a circle around it, and say, this is our patch. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to specialize in a particular type of property, which was riverside developments, which is a different type of property, but there's a lot of them, especially in the Docklands. And the riverside has become very, very popular in London itself. It's drawn a lot of international investment into London. And luckily, we've been a part of that over the last 15 years in our company called Waterfronts. So, that's been a very interesting journey for us. We've managed to work with some really high-end property and some very high net worth clients around the world. So, it's really given us a in-depth knowledge of the London property market. And also it's, we've been involved in development, developers, help developers launch new sites. So it's given us a different angle of not just looking after people's properties, but also, being involved in other channels, other avenues of property as well. So, it's really put us in a good stead. Having the university background of computing as well, I was always interested in how technology, affected different industries, for robotics or self-driving cars and things like that. So I always kept an eye on technology and how it's changing the world. And I was always in the back of my mind thinking it's got to catch up to property somehow, because property, I know Makram's got quite a longer history in property as well. It's quite a long, tedious, kind of slow, archaic process. It needs streamlining. It needs to have, better experience for the users and the people that are transacting. And this is why we're here. But that's always been in the background for us. But also, while we were down our property journey, we managed to open an office in Hong Kong, because at the time, a lot of Asian investors, especially investing into Docklands, we again didn't want to do the normal agency thing and open up another office 5 miles down the road and expand that way. We thought it would be better to go and speak to these clients in their own language on their doorstep. So we managed to open an office in Hong Kong. That worked very well for us. We weren't actually doing any business in Hong Kong. We were promoting what we do in London in Hong Kong. And yeah, we've got a lot of clients out there. Funny enough, some of those actually moved to Dubai now, and they're buying properties in Dubai. As you know, property market cycles change, hotspots of the world change. I think hopefully London will be, looked at as a safe haven for property for investors all around the world. So, this is another angle for us to be secure and to be able to leverage our experience to our investors.
Guv, amazing background. There's many things that you've mentioned that we can pick on, similar to why would you start developing waterfront or riverfront property? And this is something that's very important. But you've mentioned something, specialization. You're a specialist in what you do. I believe Denis and myself agree so much on this. And that's why when people ask us, why didn't you have your infrastructure open up immediately to everything from yachts to paintings to and it's possible, yeah. The technology is the technology and can open up to everything in the world, from a car to a lollipop. But here we are, tokenizing lollipops at the end of the day. So the idea was that we are specialists. We're specialists in tokenizing real estate because it's way beyond the tech. It's the process, it's the methodology, it's everything else around it. So you're a specialist, and you've developed this across time. Why tokenization? Why did you decide as waterfront property to come and say, you know what, we're Bricktrade and we want to tokenize real estate going forward?
Well, I think there's a few triggers to that. It's been a long process because there's a lot of research and due diligence we had to do before we even thought about Bricktrade. I think my first interaction with blockchain would have been around 2016. I probably bought my first bit of Bitcoin then, and it sort of, it was so new then. It was quite difficult to purchase, and then I started reading about how the actual network works, and how it democratizes the banking world, basically, and also how it sort of streamlines a lot of intermediaries. It cuts out a lot of middlemen, which was very interesting to me. So, that was my first interaction, I would say. Then 2018 came around, and I had to hold on to my seat, let's say, because it showed me the drastic volatility in crypto. Again, this was all, this all went towards our research, and at that point we started thinking about, yes, it's very volatile, but the technology is fantastic and it works. Why can't we try and build something that's backed by an asset? And I think that's when we started really thinking about Bricktrade. And we, at the time, we was also thinking that, look, prices are increasing, and it's due to international investment. Developers skewing the price a little bit. They originally, when we got in business, they would give you a genuine 10% discount if you bought 2 years in advance. Around that time, they were thinking, well, we're giving away all this profit. We will start selling them at what we think they're worth in 2 years' time. And what was happening is, if the currency was down, people in Hong Kong were getting 20% discount off the currency and off the property. So, it was skewing a lot of people out the market. We were then thinking about our children, and, in 20 years' time, how are these guys ever going to buy any property? So, we started thinking about how, at the time, actually, 2018, I remember this, HSBC had an internal research paper that they put out. I've got friends that work there, and they sent me a copy. and it was about tokenization, and how it will affect every industry, how it can affect the banking world, and then we started talking about fractionalization. Now, fractionalization has been around, the concept in property been around for many, many years. If, for example, us three, we wanted to buy a piece of land, get planning on it, develop something on there, and then sell it, we could easily do that in real world contracts, no problem. The issue, I think, and this is what fractionalization, tokenization ticks, is if, let's say, for example, Denis in 6 months' time wanted to come out of that project, he would then have to go into the market, find someone who wants to invest the same amount of money in the same territory, in the same asset for that period of time for the same profit. Now, that's quite a hard sell. It's quite a hard match to find. Whereas if you move that into tokenization, that's it's a lot easier to find or match that investment with another investor, because you've got eyes of the world, and you've got other investors sitting there looking for similar types of investment. So, these are the kind of things that we started thinking about, and how we can make it possible. So started looking at technology, building teams around, how we can actually make this possible. So, that was that HSBC paper was sort of the trigger for us, because we thought, right, if the banks are talking about it, this is going to be the future. And a few years down the line, we've got every bank talking about it, and every anyone who's involved in assets. And I think also the landscape of what's going on in the macros, even these large DeFi platforms falling apart because they made bad bets, right? The landscape for an asset-backed investment, access to what am I trying to say? Projects that have already been had due diligence.
Due diligence done, everything done on them. Usually is a challenge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So having access to those type of assets, being able to invest into those assets on your phone, and being halfway around the world if need be, from that is access that you would never get. Now, we've got landlords over the last few years that have actually come out of the market because through taxes and regulations and things like that, that it's actually sucked the profit out of owning the asset yourself. And also, which is a massive factor, is you need a large deposit in order to even hold the asset or get a mortgage and actually hold it yourself. So when we sort of put the concept of Bricktrade in front of them to say, look, you can still have your money in property, and you can get 7 to 8% returns, which you were getting, but you're not now because of taxes and things, and your money's backed by that asset. So it's as secure as holding it yourself, but you're holding it with a bunch of other people. So which means is your risk actually lowers, because if you were going to put your 100% of that money into one asset, the risk is slightly higher because you've got mortgage, you've got, if you've got a default tenant, all of those things, you're directly affected by it. Now, if you're holding it with 100 people, let's say, that risk lowers, but 100% of your money you could put into 5 different projects. So
you're diversifying the same amount of money without overextending yourself or overexposure to any asset.
Absolutely,
which is key. I will come back to you, Guv, with importance of continuing on the UK market. Why tokenization in the UK market or in a city like London is that important? At the same time, the dynamics of that. What's the roadmap going forward? Because yes, reaching where you've reached now with launching that is an achievement on its own and becoming regulated end, but there is definitely a very long way to go still. And I'll come back to you on all of that. I have just a few questions to go with Denis, because there are people are asking today. So you have Bricktrade, so your partner in the UK. You're building partnerships in other parts of the world. Different markets are at different points in their lifespan, in the market growth development. Does that make a big difference? So if you take a market which is so non-developed or so non-mature, and you try to develop a marketplace with it, because I believe, and people are asking this question because probably they are wondering, okay, those guys launched in the UK, someone else launched in the US. Is it as easy to launch in a market that is not as mature, as rigid? Please, if you can give us insights on your view on that.
That's a good question. I believe. Well, we've had the pleasure of talking with teams coming from different sides of the world. I think we've covered all continents so far. But the interesting part is that when it comes to asset-backed tokenization, it's not, even if a market is less developed, I would say that it's not such a problem because the regulation surrounding the asset class and it's there. So it's not something that you are developing from the ground up, but you can really rely on established regulation, established ways of investing in the asset class in itself. And maybe even might be in some places it might be even easier, perhaps. Maybe there's more openness by the regulator to actually implement something new, because there's a big gap between a developed jurisdiction and that jurisdiction that is trying to find new ways that involve technology. So maybe tokenizing real estate in a less developed jurisdiction might even be even more supported by the regulator, because the current incumbents are less present, or they don't have a hold over things to leave things as they are, right?
So do you feel here that if there is no present regulation, it's easier today as we speak? Because yes, the regulation will develop, but it will always, the first time regulation comes to market and tackles an industry or a part of an industry, usually it's rigid and most of the time non-complete, yeah, because it develops with time. Do you feel that it's easier for parties to launch in a non-regulated market where there's no regulation whatsoever currently to anything tokenization? Or do you believe that it is, no, it is more or easier to develop in a market where there is at least a sprout of regulation?
I would say it's really hard to say, one answer fits all. But I think that in the end, you have what does it mean having regulation and not having it? That's the first question, right? I think when we're talking about regulation today, we're not talking about regulation so much in terms of tokenization, but in terms of investment vehicles, in terms of how the crypto as an asset class is perceived, and a lot of times they will push you into that box. Even though you might not be in the crypto space, you might be utilizing the technology, but you're not in the crypto space. So there's no one answer there. I would say that each jurisdiction has its own challenges. If there's regulation and licensing that you can kind of take from other markets and use it for the tokenization market, then that's great. If there's nothing present, the solution stack we have, I believe, can be utilized even when in markets where regulation is not present at all. But there's a line of communication with the regulator, so that we can directly get in contact with them, explain how things work, or how we see should work, and then we find solutions jointly, either through sandbox programs, or it depends really on the jurisdiction in the end.
Perfect. Guv, how has the journey been with Blocksquare to date?
Very good, guys. Very good.
Look at this question. This is a this is a trick question.
Yeah.
I'm asking you this question because I'm sure that many others who are watching us today are inspired by what you've done already and say, you know what, if those guys are doing it in the UK, I would like to do it in my market in South Africa or whatever. And it's important for them to understand how vigorous was the process. Did you require coding? All the questions that anyone would ask the minute that he's approaching tokenization. And this leads me to the question, why did you choose Blocksquare at the end of the day? Because I'm sure you've done so much due diligence, research, and then came up with your choice.
Yeah. I'd love to answer that, but I just want to step back one question, and I just want to put a little bit of input into what Denis was just talking about regulation, because we are the live example, right? We had to navigate this scenario for ourselves. So the activities that we're doing here in London over tokenization are unregulated at the moment, but we also understand that what we're really building is a trust engine, a trust platform, right? Although we've got a lot of experience in the market, in property, our projects are going to have a lot of due diligence behind them, live data that we'll share with them. We also want to assure them that, although we might be seen as a blockchain company, accepting crypto and things like that, for a lot of people that rings alarm bells, and especially in markets where these DeFi platforms are folding. So we actually held back launching in order to get FCA regulation for crowdfunding. Now, what that should prove to our clients is that, yes, they could have launched unregulated, but they've held back and gone the harder route and got regulation. It also shows them that we are now obligated to have certain processes in place, and if we don't adhere by them, we will lose our license, and we don't want to do that. So that's one thing. The other license that we're hoping to get by January is crypto assets. So anyone issuing tokens in England has to be registered with the FCA for this, and we should be shortly getting that. So it's very important for us to show our clients that, look, we are experiencing what we're doing, and we want to do it the right way, and we're going to be here for a long time. So join us on our journey. Not only the regulation side, but also joining that together with real world contracts. So like Denis said, there are parts of this that are already regulated. For example, limited liability companies, company law, all the assets that we're going to be dealing with are going to be held in an SPV, which are, there's already law and regulation around how these companies are run and how they're worked. So we've had to blend those laws and regulations with live real world contracts that then link those contracts with the token itself. So this is how we've done it. So just to build in lots of assurance and that we're real people, and we're actually doing this for the benefit of progression of the industry, I suppose, is the best way of saying it. Going back
usually
to
there's always a very easy route and a right route, and usually the right would not be easy, and the easy most probably would not be right. So you've taken the right route, which gives us also loads of comfort when and gave us loads of comfort when we are presenting the Bricktrade case to the board. And I believe that you've done it right, Guv, and hopefully this will pay fruits going forward in the future.
Thank you, Makram. And coming on to your question now about how our experience has been with Blocksquare. So, you're absolutely right. We did a lot of due diligence and research around how we're actually going to build this technology. And yes, we did go down the route of wireframing our own production version of a tokenization engine. Let's say, websites and things like that are quite easy to generate. But that was a route we were thinking about going forward with before we started talking. For me, looking at when we're going to start making money, how are we going to launch, how long it's going to take, how much money is going to cost to actually build something like this. So putting all of that in on the table. But I've always been an advocate of let specialists do their specialities, right? You wouldn't go to a dentist if you had a flat tire, right? So if you let the specialists do what they're good at, if you bring them together, surely you should have a more robust product. And that was the reason for us to look at white label solutions, because for us, building it ourselves and then maintaining it and then making sure it's robust enough for the future, it's an ongoing journey. We would rather, in the situation we're at, we want to concentrate on launching, making the launch a success, and letting experts like yourself deal with the software side of things and making sure it's secure and it's working to the best of your ability. And we, in that sense, one, we don't have the cost up front to build the engine ourselves. Secondly, we save on build time, because I think software build is similar to build property building. You can say it's going to be 18 months, but it usually is about 24. So it always it always takes a little bit longer than everyone expects.
And costs
so,
slightly or much more. Huh?
Well, this is it. So not only do we save the upfront cost, the time of building, it's also the maintenance side of things going forward. We can concentrate on what we're good at and leave you guys to support us in terms of doing what you're good at. So I think since we made that decision and we got in contact and we've worked together, I think it's been very smooth. The communication has been very, it's been great. We're always in contact, as you know, on our Discord channel. And you've I'd say that all of our requests, I never said no. It's always a maybe, and anything that can be done gets done very quickly.
Perfect. This is a testimonial, guys, and listen to Guv. Follow what he said. Actually, it's funny enough. I was chatting with my dentist. As Dennis knows, I've been enjoying my time with my dentist for the past few weeks. I have a big project there. And
he doesn't fix cars as a part-time thing, does he?
Exactly. I have a part-time job there. So, and he was asking me about property, about real estate. So, when people know that you work in real estate, they ask you about real estate, especially if you're in Dubai, because everyone in Dubai wants to be part of the booming market and the coming profit. And I said, you know what? The funniest thing is that, because he was telling me about a friend, a colleague of his, telling him what should he do. And he was telling me that my colleague knows what he's doing, so I need to follow him. And I said, what does your colleague do? He said, he's a great dentist. I said, amazing. You know what? So next time, probably I have a problem with my teeth, I need to ask my colleague, who's an amazing realtor. And he said, why? I said, because you asked your great dentist colleague about property. And if you have a car with a problem, would you go and try and fix it yourself? No, you obviously send it to the mechanic or to the agency. If I have teeth problem, would I try to fix it myself? Lucky me, I don't. So I come to a specialist. Next time you or your colleague have a property problem or an opportunity in property, I believe you'd better go to a specialist rather than to a dentist. So 100%, you've said it perfectly right over there. Dennis, our relationship with Bricktrade have started some time ago. Bricktrade have an edge in and correct me if I'm wrong here, Gav, in development, but also a 360 approach to that, because they didn't only develop, they took care out of all their clients' needs in general, especially probably because they've tackled international customers. So they've done everything from the pre-development, development, post-development, including sales and customer service in the interim and property management. Am I right, Gav, in describing it that way?
Yeah, that's correct. So, from our experience, what we put into Bricktrade is, for example, construction finance is going to be one of our products. So we're going to help developers, one, do due diligence on their sites. Are they building at the right cost? Are they selling at the right price? Are they building in the right area? Once we establish all of those factors and we've done our due diligence, we will help them raise the money that they need for that construction finance. Now, the good thing
You
is,
tokenize their project in a way or other.
Indeed. So we will only work with developers that have got SPVs already, and it's the site is held in that SPV. We will tokenize that company, that SPV, and allow investment into that via tokenization.
Perfect.
The nice thing is working with developers is what I believe is that's the lowest risk in the property cycle, the investment side of things, because every month that that money is spent out of the investment, it's actually put into the site. So the value of the principal is becoming more secure over time. The nice thing is working with developers is obviously they're building properties. Now it leads into our second product, which is going to be built assets. So deriving a yield from a built asset that's rented. Now, the developer is building these units. In the developer's mind, he's still going to be sitting in panic mode for 2 years, let's say, for when he's building, because his profit is actually at the end of the 30% on the completion of those units. The middle bit is all debt and construction finance and the price of the site originally. So what we do with our experience is to say, look, we're not only going to give you the money to develop this site, we're also going to help you sell these units before you put a brick in the ground. So we will help generate all the marketing material around this site. We will then put it to the right types of investors, but also what we can do is bring these units into the Bricktrade platform and publish them as investable projects. So by the time it reaches our investors for construction finance, we would already have worked out how much yield these units will produce. Those units will then go on our site. Hopefully, by the time he's halfway through his construction, we've sold all of his units. This developer is in a win-win situation with us. He has no need for a sales function, which means hopefully this developer now has enough confidence to then go out and buy a bigger site and go on building larger and larger developments, and we'll support him all the way through. It also provides us with good pipeline.
Perfect. In a city like London, with that kind of shortage that has lived since 1989, I believe you really need newer developments and bigger developments and better, newer developments. So what you're doing is you're layering it in. So you're funding his construction, his project, his development, and then you're funding the buyer's purchase, and probably in a way or other facilitating the tenancy. So, and that's where property management, comes in play. Dennis, my question was, if we see parties who do not do everything that Bricktrade and Guv have experience in doing. So not everyone who wants to come into tokenization of property has the whole 360. They usually capture one part of that. Maybe they're on the sales end, maybe they're on the funding and capital structuring end, or maybe they are on the property management end purely, although I doubt that those will be the first call in. Is it still doable? Is it still feasible? Or no? Any party that needs to launch a marketplace is preferably on all of those ends. Can they subcontract those functions to third-party companies that can meet certain standards, or not really? It should be all in-house.
In my view, a marketplace can be run by a single person. Essentially, you have very big successful online businesses that are basically run by one single person, or have been for several years before developing actually into a team. And I'm talking about businesses that made millions for that founder. So I believe that with the right technology, you can actually build that type of business. It really depends then on your access to the other, let's say, people you collaborate with, because in the end, in property, you can't do anything alone. You might run a marketplace yourself, but you still need to have access to either developers or property owners, or you need to really cater to a niche need or a specific need in a niche market. I think that's the winning recipe for any marketplace operator. It's like finding that shortage of access or liquidity in a specific market. Where is the point of entry for a marketplace operator? Where do you solve actual real problems? Because maybe on developing a larger project, there's no issues in a market because there's enough access to financing, etc. Right? It really depends as well on which time, on the timing of launching a marketplace, because that defines the issues on a specific market, where in the cycle we are. And I think right now we're in a very interesting period of time globally, not just in specific markets, but in general, where we have increasing interest rates, we have potential for interest rates being risen too much, and then that's driving certain markets even into recession. And all of this is kind of a bit of scary times, but I think it opened up alternative means of financing, but also approaching the market. And I think whoever is thinking of opening a marketplace somewhere in the world should think where they are, where they have access to, and where's the opportunity lies for them. Yes, but if we go back to Bricktrade, I think the more you're able to do as a company, not only in the managing of a marketplace, but as well in supporting your clients around the clock with different services, the more value it gives to your brand, and the more opportunity opens up, because you can kind of really tackle the market with a couple of products, and that obviously gives you more traction for growth.
So for everyone listening and thinking about a marketplace, you can open a marketplace regardless if you do everything that Bricktrade does. Look, definitely it relays more confidence, more trust, and helps you in delivering the kind of service that you want and the kind of expectations that you've given clientele and that you've drawn onto clientele when you have the whole 360 solution taken care of, similar to what Bricktrade does. However, this doesn't mean that you cannot operate on your niche as long as you know where's your money. Yeah, you know where will your revenue source be from, you know where's your edge, and who's your content or contacts to start developing transactions, because at the end of the day, it's all about transactions. Guv, you've had a long route to reach where you are today, tokenizing property and developing property in general. Tell us about the roadmap going forward for Bricktrade. What's the target? So now you have technology deployed, you have infrastructure from Blocksquare, you have the properties possible to tokenize immediately. What's the route forward? Where are you going with this?
Yeah, so we're hoping to launch the platform itself in February 2023. We are obviously working with yourselves in order to finish connecting all the pieces. We've just had a rebrand. We've just launched a new website recently. So all of these things are in place. Like I said earlier, we actually held back. We were going to launch in the middle of this year, but we held back because we wanted to get this extra piece of regulation under our belts. So also the market this year hasn't been fantastic. So, with interest rates rising, energy bills rising, us introducing a new investment product just didn't seem to fit right. So, hopefully, beginning of next year and a bit of seasonality will help us get some good traction. By doing that, what we're thinking of doing is doing some quite large multi-channel marketing, social media. Obviously, we are looking at maybe doing trains and buses in London to really give us a good start and give us a lot of exposure.
If you are a landlord in London or a property buyer, so you're an existing property buyer or you're just now deciding to jump on the property ladder, you have one of two challenges. You're either not capable of because of the high costs of entry, or you're a landlord and you're overexposed and you're worried, I have either profit and equity there, or I don't have a profit and equity. So I either may lose some profit and equity, or I may be simply non-solvent in a way or another if I am overexposed to leverage that is not fixed on interest rate and which will rise. Then the solution for you, or one of the solutions, because I'm sure there may be other solutions on the table. However, one of the solutions would be tokenization through Bricktrade, because at the end of the day, there's a great investor. There are few great investors in the world, and one of them is called Ray Dalio. For whoever haven't heard of Ray Dalio, he runs Bridgewater Capital, which is one of the most successful funds in the world. And last year, I would say probably they are the most successful. They again, I haven't looked at all the funds, so I'm sure there may be a fund here or there that is performing better, but they've performed great. And Ray Dalio have studied the last 500 years of history, and Ray Dalio has his own thoughts on the future. It doesn't have to be right, but what I would tell you is the following. Diversification, in the opinion of Ray Dalio, which follows the traditional, conventional wisdom, putting your eggs in more than one basket may give you the best solution for turbulent times and your best protection against either ignorance or extreme market conditions. So if you want to diversify, if all your property is in a certain area of London and you want to spread it all around, or you have property in many areas in London that you have worked so hard to choose, they are very well chosen property, but you want to pull out some cash, maybe Bricktrade is your option for you to go in, tokenize this property, pull some cash out, and move on from there. As well as if you're a developer and conventional means are not helping you as much or are changing very fast, thus you can't maybe satisfy your requirements fast enough, also Bricktrade may be a solution. Guv, I want to know more about you as an individual. So if you can give us a little bit of personal background, please, on who you are, what have you done other than your education. So tell us about your background as a human being, not in business, so that everyone listening would know about us. And tell us more about your team, please, because Bricktrade has a big team that is working on the solutions and the business. So tell us more about that, please.
Good question. So I'm a family man. My wife's also involved in the project as well. She's the CMO. She also helped me build waterfronts as well. So we've been working together for a long, long time. We've been married for about I know this. It's 16 years, and we've got. I know this has been recorded, right?
This is dangerous. Dangerous. Give the right dates. Huh?
We've got two beautiful sons. One's 9, and one's going to be turning 5 in about 2 weeks. So this is my background, my personal life, and this is what we live by. And it was Bricktrade again. Looking at my sons, were you're going to have a good education, and we have a lot of these people actually tenants in our properties in waterfronts, and we were looking at these guys, and we were like, okay, you've done the right thing. You've gone to university. You've gone and got your 150 grand job, but you still can't buy a property near where you need to work, and you probably won't be able to buy a property for the duration of your career, if I'm honest. and they pay rent for those units. So by putting all of that together, we were like, well, how are people going to buy properties? How can they get access to it? Access to asset-backed investments. You mentioned earlier that if landlords want to pull out some cash, or even people that are looking to get into the market, right? Where do you put your money that is secure? Do you put it into stocks? Do you put it into crypto? Do you put it into lollipops? Like you mentioned earlier, but the fact is, what is it actually backed by? If you put it into Tesla and Tesla fell off a cliff, what you've got remaining is nothing. It's vapor. With us and what you guys are building and what we're building are platforms where you can put your money that's actually backed by things you can come and knock on, which is the same as gold and emeralds or
It's
or
better
whatever.
than gold because it cash flows, Guv. Sorry, I needed to.
Yeah. You've got yield. You've got yield. You've got genuine yield, right?
Exactly.
So when and we've gone to a lot of exhibitions with Bricktrade, and obviously we're going to be accepting crypto, so they're crypto events, and we're sitting there. I'm standing there in a suit, and they're thinking, well, you don't look like you're from crypto world, and you're offering us 8% a year, and we're getting 30% a month. Come on, man, you don't really fit. But I was saying the same thing to them then, and I said, okay, well, tell me what this 30% is backed by. If you don't know where the yield's coming from, you're the yield. And
Exactly.
over time, it's sort of shown that these platforms have been using Ponzi economics, but they've drawn in billions of dollars or pounds, if you call it. So the money is out there, and now those same people are asking the question: what is this backed by? Can we get our money backed by asset? Okay, well, it's the interest is lower, but at least I know it's still there. So that's the journey that we've been on, and that's the experience that we bring into it. So that's all we know. So what we're able to do with Bricktrade is leverage our experience and share that with people and deliver it to them by giving them access through technology.
And here is your saying,
Guv, I wanted to ask you one of the things, your experience, because I think we discussed this with Makram a couple of times, and with Julia as well. The importance of building a brand or being one of the front runners when you're building a new brand with a new value proposition on a market, especially when it's a new emerging market. Because real estate is obviously an old one. But here we're talking about tokenized real estate, which is a new category, I would say, online, or in general in the life of human beings. And you're building a brand in your market. But obviously, we know from the testing, from the beginning of testing your platform, your marketplace, that the population that will be involved in the properties you bring on board is going to be global, right? But how do you perceive building that brand building element to it, and being a front runner, or one of the first in line in the UK market? Because I think, honestly, my view, this is an opportunity for anyone in any market, right? Being known as the brand and not one of the copies that follow after when things are already up and running and everything has been solved.
Absolutely, and I think that's a scare in any new business that you launch. It could be in any business. You're scared of the copycats, and there was a period of time that we were thinking, as soon as we launch, people are going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to copy what we do. Now, the way I put that to bed is this market, the space that we're going into, is so huge. Now, I'm sure you've heard a figure around the 220 trillion pound or dollar on that's what the property market is worth, right? But that doesn't include the equity that's locked in these assets. Now, so that makes that market share even bigger. Now, yes, there will be copycats. Yes, I suppose the pioneers have the harder journey of breaking down barriers and launching first and making mistakes. But the market's so big, there could be 50 of us and everyone will still make money. But it's essentially, what are we actually doing and what we're delivering is more important than competition, I believe.
At this stage, I believe every competition is a verification that the methodology is meaningful and is useful and is usable. And the more players come onto the market, the better validation every player, including the initial pioneer, does have. But as you said, it's a huge market and there may be hundreds of players. No one will be able to capture the whole market. Actually, you don't want to capture, as you said, you want to be specific in what you approach and what you do. You don't want to be capturing the whole market or try to capture the whole market.
Yeah. Well, we'll try to capture as much as we can, of course.
Exactly.
But what gives us ongoing assurance as well is, as we go down this road, banks and asset managers and larger organization, they're talking about asset tokenization in general, which really gives us a lot of assurance, because if they've got their teams and their research analysts looking at this market, it means that we're going down the right road, which is very important for us. Another thing that you asked me is about how we're going to generate traction and knowledge around our brand. One thing that we've thought about, and I'll tell you this because it's just between us, I suppose, is we're going to hold property raffles. So we'll give the opportunity to our investors, our audience, to be able to buy a raffle ticket, and we're going to fund a whole property and then give the property away debt free. I believe that will give us a lot of traction for exclusivity on this, and I think that will, we want to do one of them a month, every month. So it's something that we're looking at. It's going to put a lot of eyes on our project.
Cool. And will you be giving the whole property to one party, or will you be giving the whole property to plenty of token holders?
So initially, we want to give it away to one raffle holder. As we go on, we could do a mixture. We could have single raffles, or we could give it to a selection. Randomly, maybe pick 100 people, and they then own that unit and have the yield for it, or we.
Perfect. Guv, we're around out of time, so two things very fast. Give us a very fast view in less than 30 seconds of the team, please. And the rest of the roadmap, where are we going to buy? When will people see tokenized property in the UK market, London market, publicly listed? And what are your plans going forward?
So our team is very experienced in the property sector. Now we don't need technology experts in here because we've handed that over to you guys. So in house we've got quantity surveyors, so they can very quickly do the due diligence in the projects that approach us. We've got my wife; she's the CMO. She's got a background in finance. She's been doing mortgages with the banks for the last 10 years. So we've got that aspect. We've also got a selection of experts around property due diligence, marketing, and also community management.
Development, management, and development.
Yeah. So these are the initial skill sets that we're going to have in house when we launch. As we launch, as we get bigger, as we generate more revenue, we'll add to the team as
perfect.
Where
are we going very fast? Also, in the coming few months and years, where is Bricktrade headed?
So initially, obviously, we're going to be working in London and the UK. we have been accepted on a London Mayor's International Programme, which is run by the government. I think there's about 1,800 companies that applied. We were 26th that got in. About 100, I think 100 get in every 6 months. So they put us in contact with corporates, international businesses, lawyers, and things like that. So we can explore expanding. We want to really get our feet firmly on the ground in London and the UK. We would then probably look to come to Dubai. We've had people approach us from India and America, actually. So that journey, we might look at maybe franchising model, or actually putting teams ourselves on where we feel that we can add value ourselves and build our own team in that territory and launch and do as we done here.
Thank you so much, Guv. Denis, do you have any questions to Guv?
No, I think we covered most of everything here. I think it was a great episode of Block Chat.
Guv, do you have any questions for us?
No, not at this stage. I think it's been a really good catch up, really good talk. If you guys got any questions, happy to answer them. But I think we've covered quite a lot, and we're really excited for the future.
Thank you so much, Guv, for being with us today. Again, everyone, thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing our energy. It's Denis Petrovcic, Makram Hani, and today with Guv Kang from Bricktrade. Thank you all for